I'm going to get straight to it.
Okay.
What made you want to be a lawyer in the first place?
Well, I decided I wanted to become a lawyer when I was in college, when I was at Stanford University.
Same.
And the reason I decided it is because I had invented a product, which was a type of clock. And I invented this clock, and I took it to a trade show, and I had gotten a lot of press for our company that I started with my business partner at the time. And there was a guy who, one of the days of the trade show, he was just in the trade show booth, literally copying all the designs, like making diagrams,
Wow.
taking photos of all of our
Wow.
clocks. And he came up to me and he said, I saw your article in the LA Times about you. I love this product. It's great. I'm doing it tomorrow myself.
He
He actually said that to me. He said that to me, yeah. So I actually chased him out of the booth and ran after him. I was like, what the hell is wrong with you? I gave him a severe talking to. And then I thought to myself.
That's a nice way of saying it.
Yeah. You know, I needed to do something to protect myself. So I had, the interesting thing is, even at that point, I had written a patent successfully for those clocks, even though I wasn't a lawyer yet. But what I realized is it takes money to enforce those patents. So I was a college student. I didn't have a ton of money to defend. It's called defending the patent. So I was quite worried, and I thought, I gotta go to law school to be able to do this properly and be able to go after this guy and stop things like this from happening.
Was that a part of your personality always? You seen a problem and you're like, let me attack it? Because just saying, okay, I'm gonna become a lawyer now, that's not a simple feat.
Yeah, that's true. I think it is part of my problem, my personality, because I love to solve problems, and I also, I don't like to be kept down. So if I see a way that I can defend myself or other people and come out on top and be victorious, being a lawyer was the way to have that in my life.
What do you think on this journey of becoming a lawyer? What was one of the most challenging things you faced?
I think, believe it or not, it's going to sound pretty weird, going to law school. I love learning. I find learning to be magical. I've loved learning my entire life. I love foreign languages. I love science. I love biology. I love reading about health, nutrition. So many things I love learning. However, when you go to law school, it's different from regular learning. So when I was an undergrad at Stanford, Toni Morrison taught classes that I was able to attend. I mean, we had these great writers, and I was an English major. So my passion for learning really involved Shakespeare and reading novels. When I went to law school, it's high pressure. They call on you. It's called the Socratic method. And they will tell you if they're nice. The teachers, the professors will tell you, hey, Cyrus, you're on call tomorrow. So that means you've got to know everything inside and out. And then the teacher can just say, Cyrus, what do you think? And then you have to immediately, on the spot, come up with something to say about the case you're reading, an opinion you have. And that was just seriously high pressure and very, very different from how it is to write essays about novels. And that's what I was used to. And then the other thing, Cyrus, is that the tests are called time-defeating tests in law school. And what that means is they give you more questions than you can typically even answer. So for those of us who are used to doing it very, very well in school, when we get a test and we can't answer all the questions, so we don't have enough time.
That would be frustrating, and that would be scary.
Super, super frustrating. And I remember my freshman year, my first year of law school, I should say, which is called a 1L. I remember seeing people, running to the bathroom, vomiting from the stress, having a nervous breakdown because it was, for many people, the first test that they've never been able to finish. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
How was your support system going through something so tough? I can just imagine me being a child and I'm deciding I want to be a lawyer and going through one of the toughest things. And how would I handle the breaking down moments? So how did you get through that with your support system?
Well, I think I had kind of a tough childhood, so I learned to kind of be my own coach and my own supporter in many ways. I've also always played a lot of sports, and so there's an element in me where I'm able to kind of give myself like a pep talk, like, you can do this, you're gonna kick some booty, you're gonna do this thing. So I mostly was able to do that for myself, but I also did meet some friends in law school. So you can sort of commiserate and share your strategies and complain and get it out there if you need to.
So you would recommend, let's just say I'm a young girl, young man, and I want to get into the law school and I reach this, you would recommend that I would get a lot of friends associated with the same things, or what would you recommend?
I would recommend that you are mentally tough, however that takes you, whatever it takes for you to become mentally tough. I think playing sports is a great way to develop mental toughness. That helped me, So have some mental toughness before you go to law school, and then once you get in law school, it's really important to make a few close friends And that's because you need to be able to share your experiences to get them off your chest. And then also, you can study together. And when, it's like 2 heads, 3 heads, 4 heads are better than one. So when you study together, that also gives you more power as a student.
So after going through Stanford and the challenges, after that, what was next for you? Is it, okay, now I'm just going to Los Angeles and I'm creating a firm? What was like the next step for you?
I definitely don't have a direct path to my success. The things I did were very atypical, I'm sure. So for many years, I was a fashion model with Elite Model Management before I became an attorney. And that's how I made some of the money that I used when I went to Stanford. And I kept modeling beyond Stanford and started my company while I was at Stanford. But beyond those years, I was modeling and had my own product design and manufacturing company. So I went to law school when I was a little bit older than some people, having experienced a different career. And I think it was very helpful because having that product design company, I also went to a lot of trade shows, like I mentioned, and I learned how to sell things and market things. And of course, now that I'm a lawyer, it's a huge part of being successful is being able to sell my services to people.
I think it's amazing how you've been able to not only get into a field, create something, someone rip off an idea, you get mad, say, you know what, I'm going to attack this, I'm going to handle this, I'm going to go. Yeah. So, and that being a core of you, then obviously coming out, becoming a lawyer, coming to, not Stanford, but coming here after Stanford.
Yeah.
I could see all these like trials and tribulations within. So what would you recommend somebody I just finished law school, what do I do? What would you recommend?
Well, I mentor a lot of young people, and one of the main things I tell people is that you really have to know yourself. So there are so many ways you can get to know yourself. You can talk to a priest or a preacher. Some people are spiritual, some people are religious. You can also go through psychoanalysis or talk to a psychologist. You can meditate, which is such a wonderful thing, and I actually meditate. But however you need to get to that place of knowing yourself so you will make good decisions. And the examples I give I think will ring true for many people, which is don't become a lawyer because your parents want you to become a lawyer. Don't become a lawyer because, your boyfriend thinks it would be great because you'll make a lot of money. What you really want to do is know yourself and make decisions based upon your desires and your needs. And if you know yourself, you're going to be able to do that. And if you don't know yourself, you're going to make decisions to please other people. And that, in the end, will not be pleasing to you.
How did you, speaking of that and knowing a little bit about your childhood, was there a defining moment that you got a chance to know yourself?
Well, that's such a deep question, Cyrus. It's because in my mind, there is a moment when I realized how strong I was. And it's going to sound terrible because it's traumatic. But the moment when I realized that I was all I ever needed was when my mother, after my dad and mom got divorced, my mom blamed me. And there was an incident where she pulled me downstairs by my hair, dragging me downstairs, kicking and screaming, and told me that my dad never would have left if not for me.
Oh my
And
God.
then she proceeded to lock me in my room where I was sobbing and crying as a very young kid. I must have been, I was 4 or 5 years old, maybe 6. But in any case, that was a moment, that was a very defining moment for me because I said to myself at that time, these people in your immediate surroundings, your family right here, don't know how to care about you. And I don't think they ever really will. So you've got to take care of yourself. And you've got to trust and count and rely on yourself. And that's what I did. I mean, as a very young child, I learned that I had to trust myself and rely on myself. And the great thing is that as an outgrowth of that, I realized that I needed to watch other people's parents and other people's families that were good families and good people. And by watching them, I realized I could make other friends, like my best friend's parents were like my parents to me. I could make friends with my teachers and coaches and get positive support from them. So I had my own internal strength, but then I realized, okay, these people in your immediate family you might not be able to trust, but these other people are such sources of positive inspiration to me and just were able to give me compliments and keep me motivated and it was incredibly rewarding for me to have made that realization.
I'm so glad that you spoke about that because we can talk about a career all day, but kids must know what it takes internally to overcome some of these huge barriers. Because obviously being a lawyer or a doctor is perceived as being the toughest road to get a job. Like, you know, this career is 8 years, is this, is this, is this.
Yes.
So for you to share that is like letting kids know, look, get the chance to know yourself before even partaking in this particular field.
Yes.
And how important that is.
Very important, right? Because I mean, in the end, I think that we're all trying to live a life so that we can be happy, right? Maybe we want to do something good, we want to leave something positive behind, but we really want to be content as we can be. And that path to contentment, I think, is self-knowledge.
Next question is, what type of lawyer are you, and what's the differences between you and the TV lawyer?
That's a great question. Well, I am what's called a transactional attorney, and so what that means is that I write contracts for a living, I review contracts, and I negotiate contracts. So I try to prevent problems for people before they arise by having a really clear written agreement that states my client's rights and the opposing party's rights. So that's what I do. And then the types of clients that I represent, I started my career as a music attorney at a firm called Manat, Phelps and Phillips. It's still here in Los Angeles. And so I still handle music and entertainment contracts. And then I also handle what's called soft intellectual property. And what that means is it is trademarks for brand names and copyrights to protect screenplay, artwork, paintings, photographic works. So I call myself the attorney for creative types because generally all my clients have something in common. They're generating creative output. And whether that's an actress or a singer or a director or someone who's created a new handbag line or skincare line, those are my clients.
And what's the difference between that and obviously the perceived TV? Because
Well,
obviously TV, but
most people, all they think of is the TV lawyer. And the thing is about TV, of course, they do it for drama. So there's all this, these dramatic things happening. But those are kind of what I perceive to be almost like bulldogs in the courtroom. And that's like the TV lawyer that you see. Whereas lawyers, those people are called litigators. And lawyers like me who are transactional attorneys, we are not that personality. I mean, some people who do what I do, especially music lawyers, will swear and scream, and I have to hold the phone away from my ear. I'm like, but most of us are just reasonable people trying to get a deal done that's protecting our clients, to the best of our ability.
I just wanted to break down the stereotype so I can let people know it's not scary to talk to a lawyer.
No.
And how important is it to protect your property? How important is it to protect the logo or anything?
Well, okay, so I'm glad you asked about that because there's so many misconceptions about intellectual property. First of all, a lot of people don't know what intellectual property is. So intellectual property includes patents, which are for inventions, trademarks, which are brand names, and then copyrights, which protect music and screenplays and artwork. So I handle the branding aspect, which is trademarks, and then the artistic aspect, which is copyrights. It's really important to protect your rights as far as intellectual property goes because it gives you certain rights to prevent other people from basically knocking off your brand name or your logo or knocking off your screenplay or a painting that you created. So nailing down, securing those rights is really important. And sometimes people think there are alternative ways to protect them. Like there's this old myth, like you can
mail yourself.
Mail yourself a letter that has something in it that it's called the poor man's copyright myth, and that really doesn't protect you at all. And the reason it doesn't protect you is because people think that if I mailed that self to me and that thing to myself, and it has a stamp on it, it shows the date, then I can prove that I created this thing by that date. That doesn't do anything because there's something called the chain of custody rule in evidence, and you have to, like that letter would have to be in police custody or was kept, in a vault or something, but you could have tampered with it. It was sitting at home in your drawer or something. So that myth doesn't do anything. Another thing is a lot of people who are Writers Guild members mistakenly believe that a Writers Guild registration for a screenplay is the same as a copyright registration. Totally different. The copyright registration is done by the Library of Congress, and you can register things yourself at copyright.gov, G-O-V, but it's absolutely different and far more important, in my opinion, to register that copyright than to register at the Writers Guild for your screenplay or your script. And that's because only the Library of Congress can give you an official copyright registration that gives you a whole bunch of rights against other people who might knock off your screenplay or whatever it is. And the amazing thing about those rights are that if you register in a timely manner, you are able to get that person who might have knocked you off to pay for your own attorney to sue them.
Oh, wow.
So isn't that amazing? It's like the greatest tool. It's like, not only did you knock me off, but you're going to pay for my attorney to sue you because you knocked me off and I registered my copyright in a timely manner.
How important is it to go through a lawyer? Because obviously I hear a lot of people, you know what, I'll just go ahead and do the paperwork myself.
Yes.
Or I'll just go ahead, LegalZoom, and take care of all of it. How important is it, do you think, that somebody should consult an actual lawyer for these things?
Well, that is a big can of worms with me. I think that LegalZoom is out there and they do what they do, but there's never a substitute for talking to a live person, right? Who knows your business, who can give you custom advice and take in all your considerations. Because, you know, anyone who comes to me as a client is a full, well-rounded human being, and they have business concerns, they have legal concerns, and these are not things that just, you know, filling in a form online or giving information to someone in customer service just over the phone can really do for you. You have to have a real understanding of what your client is going through in order to give them the best advice.
Mm-hmm. So if I wanted to get this done, let's say my logo now.
Yep.
Because some people don't know about class and whatnot. Is it just, okay, I'm about to just get my logo copywritten or trademarked or
yeah.
whatnot? Because people confuse them.
Yeah.
Trademark, copywritten. So what do I do now? Do I just go online or what do I do?
So I don't recommend people try to register a trademark on their own. You can check on the website uspto.gov, which is the United States Patent and Trademark Office.gov, and you can do a search to see if it looks like your trademark is available. But that's just kind of the lowest level of search. Attorneys like me will run a full search that will tell you in every single state and federally what is pending and not registered yet, and what is registered that would prevent you from registering that. And that's really why you need an attorney, because it's kind of tricky. It's kind of tricky because many people think, I searched the words I want and I don't find an exact match, and the problem is it's not about an exact match, it's about this thing called the likelihood of confusion. And the likelihood of confusion basically is certain factors that come from case law that tell us whether or not a certain existing trademark is likely to cause confusion in the minds of consumers. So the law, trademark law, is designed to protect consumers like you and me from being confused about where the goods come from that we're buying.
I think it's absolutely amazing that you share this, because I have these conversations with people nationwide, and everybody's a lawyer according to their information.
Yes.
Not a real lawyer. Their information underlines that they're a lawyer. And not only that, these people are on panels that discuss, this is the best way to get a trademark, this is what I did, but it's not what you just discussed.
Right. I'm sure that people like to cut corners, but what I always say to people is, one of the remedies for trademark infringement is that they can take all of your profits. So think about what that means. If you don't have a trademark attorney like me investigate your trademark and then register it for you, and you go on your own and you think you've done it somehow, and then you end up getting a lawsuit filed against you for trademark infringement, potentially that company or that person who's suing you can take all of your profits. So it doesn't make a lot of sense, instead of spending a relatively small sum of money to have an attorney handle it and nail down those rights for you, to take that risk of getting all your profits taken away, right? I mean, that's your blood, sweat, and tears that you put into your new business, and I would hate to see anyone, give that away because they get sued and they just were trying to be a penny pincher.
How would somebody go about finding a good attorney to represent them?
How I would go about finding a lawyer, it's funny because I did have to find a lawyer a while ago, because I was involved in a will and trust dispute with my own family, and I basically talked to other lawyers I knew, and then I interviewed the lawyers, and I also checked their state bar record. So if you go to calbar.org or any state bar website where the person would be a member, you can see if they have any kind of demerits, any suspensions, any bad things that they've done that are on record.
And is that the same from state to state as well?
On every state bar website, yeah, you can check the record of the attorney. And I think in the California bar website, it's called attorney search. So you just search under that person's name and you can see if there's anything negative on their record.
Okay. I told people online that I'm going to interview you, and one of the questions was about intellectual property when presenting to possible investors.
Mm-hmm.
How would they protect themselves?
Well, the main thing investors will want to see as far as intellectual property is that you have nailed down that intellectual property. They don't want to invest in a company that could be walking into a trademark or copyright infringement lawsuit down the road. So what they're going to want to see is that you had a trademark attorney like me or some other attorney register your brand name so that they're not going to invest in a company that gets sued. You know, that's like having, you know, a giant, you know, rainstorm rain on their parade the minute, you know, they've invested in your company, and it could cost them a lot of money.
Do you have to get, like, obviously when somebody start their online business or they start their own little personal company selling paper or whatnot, do they have to get things trademarked and copywritten?
You're not required legally to register trademarks or copyrights. It's just like the wise thing to do because, as I said,
A wise way?
the wise way, yeah. Because if you don't do it, someone could take all your profits as one of the remedies. So not to do it would be foolish. And then because, just like you point out with the investors, anyone who's going to ever spend serious money in either investing in a company or maybe buying a business will want to know that you have registered the copyrights and trademarks. And so they'll have an attorney like me, someone who wants to buy a business, and I will check, are these trademarks and copyrights registered? And if not, I might tell my client, you know, it's not worth that much, or hey, you know, I wouldn't even buy this
Stay away
company.
from it.
Yeah.
Do you think, well, first off, I think that it would be wise to get a lawyer on the behalf of, you can have somebody potentially represent you if somebody tried to sue. Are you one of the lawyers that may represent someone if let's just say we did register this and someone said, well, if this is infringe upon mine, would you say, I know somebody you can connect with to represent you, or how would you handle that?
Well, the way I typically handle it is in the beginning, I try to settle matters so they don't go to litigation. So what I would do, like if you had someone send you a cease and desist letter, say, hey, stop using that logo, that's mine, you're infringing it, I would look at all the facts and do an analysis, and then I would counsel you and say, here's what I found, I think you're right, or I think you're wrong. So I would put together a response to that cease and desist letter that was accurate and then I thought was going to be as protective of your rights as possible. And then I try to negotiate with the other side to enter into a settlement agreement if I thought we needed to. Or the letter might say something like, you know, your claims are totally off base, there's no infringement here, and here's why. And then I would give them case law and citations explaining why there isn't any infringement.
Do you just ever discuss like your rates publicly, or how do you go about that?
I offer my first hour at a discounted rate of $175, and that's half my hourly rate. So I usually am charging $350 an hour for most things, but I also offer flat fees for many things as well.
Well, like,
So
like trademark and
yeah, for trademarks and copyrights, and then also for forming businesses, I usually offer flat fees. Those are subject to some change, so people can call me about those. But yeah, I offer that 1 hour, that first initial consultation for $175.
How long do it usually take for something to get copywritten or trademarked or a business?
Well, the copyright office screams and yells and says they're just underfunded, which is why it takes so long. But honestly, they're incredibly erratic. I mean, sometimes they take 10 months. Sometimes they take a year at the copyright office. It used to be 6 months. The trademark office takes about 6 months to register a copyright from start to a trademark from start to finish if you're already using the trademark. But if you're not using it yet, it takes longer.
The first step in trademarking is what? What do I do now?
The first step is really to have someone like me research your trademark and to see what other trademarks are out there already that might be likely to cause confusion with your trademark. Because I don't want you stepping on someone else's toes and getting in some hot water before you even launch your business. So I would research your trademark for you, and then I would review this trademark search report and let you know if there are any other marks that I think you should be concerned about that might prevent you from obtaining a registration, or worse, that might sue you if you start to use that trademark. And it's important to know that no trademark really is without risk unless you invent a word, and it's called an arbitrary or fanciful trademark, like Google. So those are the strongest kinds of trademarks you can have.
The last thing was, there was another artist, you've been seeing it with what's the game, Fortnite, that has been taking people's dances and putting it in the game and selling it, and now you have a lot of people that's saying, you took my dance. Is there a way for somebody to protect themselves with a dance move?
Potentially there's a way to register a choreographic work with copyright protection. So you can have a work of choreography and protect a series of moves as a dance, as a copyright. So that would be the advice I would give someone who was who is a choreographer is to register their copyright for the dance.
The last question is this: is if you had an opportunity to give your younger self advice before you partaked on the journey of becoming a lawyer, what would you tell yourself to look out for?
I would say, I say this to other young people sometimes, which is when you're in college, whether you're in, I was in law school at UCLA, and then I got my master's and bachelor's at Stanford. So whether I was at Stanford for undergrad or in grad school at UCLA, I think it's really important to take that time for yourself. So I know a lot of young people, it's all about the boyfriend, it's all about the girlfriend, but really to take that time for yourself, it's like one of the only times in your life where it's really is all about you, you know? And to enjoy that time, to make as many friends as you can, connections for work later, just to keep learning about yourself and keep progressing. And I'm not saying don't date people, but I'm saying let's not spend every waking hour, you know.
So you would have told
with
yourself to
somebody.
stay locked into yourself.
I would have said, like, take that time, just date 5 boys instead of 1, you know.
Oh, that's gonna get taken the right way. You know what you mean.
Yeah, so just not being so serious about that so that you can be really serious about, you know, advancing and progressing as a human being.